Daniel here for Tabletop for One. Please join me at the table as I teach and play through 20 Strong Solar Sentinels. And I thank you for joining me for this tutorial and solo playthrough of 20 Strong. 20 Strong is designed by Josh Carlson, Salem Scott, and Shannon Wedge, and published by Chip Theory Games. And this is the first Chip Theory game that I backed, and first one I've ever played. Now, I will be doing the tutorial for the 20 Strong Solar Sentinels edition, but before I get started, I want to talk to you about the component quality. See, you're going to want to check out some of your components. First of all, my box kind of got destroyed here. I'm not sure how that happened, but you can see it just completely broke there. Also, some of the dice might have chips, or more noticeably, these defects here in their design that have these kind of glitter components that sometimes make it hard to read what is on the particular dice face, and that is really unfortunate. But definitely check out your components, and of course email the company if you have any issues. I apologize for the bandages here. I managed to cut myself, unfortunately. But let's go ahead and get started with setup. Now, in each different version of 20 Strong, you'll have different setup, but we're doing the Solar Sentinels, so we're going to take our pool of dice here and set them off to the side. There's 17 dice. Then we'll shuffle the enemy stacks here, and you're going to put 15 in 3 different stacks, and they're going to be face up. And then you'll choose your hero from the different heroes. There are 3 double-sided heroes that you can choose from. I'm going to choose Beckett, the Sun Forger here. Now, it has this little star symbol here at the top. What that means is this is a universal hero that you can use in any of the other 20 Strong decks. But we'll use this one for this play, and we'll set them right here. Then you'll take your stat dice. It's these 3 gray dice that have the different symbols on them, and you'll follow what your stats say here on the card. So I have 1 recovery, that's the arrow, and then 2 strategy, which is the little blue kind of square symbol there, and then I have 4 health, which is the heart there. And then you'll shuffle the bosses here, and you'll just place them up here in the corner. The bosses will be face down, but they can become face up during gameplay or at the very end game of the game. And then if you play with missions, you're going to draw 4 missions, and you're going to place these left to right like so, and then you're going to choose which one of these, just one of them, to discard. And so let's say I discarded this one here, then this would be set up. Now, I'm going to leave the missions here for the rules explanation so you understand how missions work, but during the tutorial itself, I will remove the missions and play it as if it was the first game, which they recommend not using missions at all. And so that's it for setup. So we're going to talk about the rules. There's general rules that apply to all the games, and then there's specific rules for the specific scenario, the Solar Sentinels or the Too Many Bones or the Hoplomachus one. And so bear in mind that you will learn the general rules, but then you'll have specific rules that you'll have with each different rule book. Now, generally, the goal of the game is to beat one of the bosses, and that may change depending on the type of game that you choose. You know, if you choose Too Many Bones or Hoplomachus, that might be different. But in the Solar Sentinels scenario, you're going to be defeating one of the bosses, and you lose if your health is ever reduced to less than 1. Now, the game is played over a series of rounds, and each round you're going to do activation, then engagement. When you activate a card, you're going to choose one of the top cards of the stack here and bring it into your activation area. Now, in the rulebook, it says the activation area is below the decks here, but it's easier for me if I place the activation area here. And so what you'll do is you'll choose one of the cards to activate. Now, some of the cards themselves have this symbol here that show activating extra enemies. And so for each of those symbols, you'll activate an extra enemy. And if you activate an enemy that has one of these symbols, you'll have to activate another one. And so you have to be careful. That can lead to a chain reaction of you encountering way too many enemies at once. But when you choose an enemy, you take the enemy, you activate it, and you place it into your activation area. So now that enemy is activated, and everything starts to apply on this card. And so on the card, you'll notice a variety of information. So this card here shows its level, which is going to apply to various effects throughout the game. And this shows an effect. These can be ongoing effects, which is this symbol here, or it can be after effects, which is this symbol here, or there's star effects that are situational, and so you just follow the instructions on the card for those effects. But on the bottom here, it shows a loot, an item that you can gain, or an instant benefit, or an ongoing ability that you might gain, and we'll go over those shortly. On the right here, it shows the amount of health that the enemy has, and then how much damage it'll do to you if you don't defeat it. And so after you've activated an enemy and understand the rules that it modifies, what you're going to do is you're going to commit dice to attack the enemy. Now the dice come in various strength, and you'll know the strength by the pips around the circle. So we have 2 pips here on this circle. That's the weakest kind of die. So the yellow are the weakest. Next up is green. Green has 3 pips around the circle. Blue has 4 pips. And purple has 5, and then red has 6. And the pips correspond to how many hits are actually on the die. See, this here is a miss. An empty circle here. A circle with a cross here is a hit, and then a circle with a cross and the little like halo in there around the cross is a critical hit, and that'll do 2 damage, whereas regular hits will do 1 damage. So on this purple die here, you'll notice it has 5 pips around the purple, so that means it has 5 hits. That includes the critical hit or 1 miss. And so that's how that works. The red one here is all hits with 1 critical hit. Each die has a critical hit on it. And so committing dice is the first part of the strategy phase. And so you'll choose how many dice you want to commit to the roll. Let's say I chose these 5 dice here. Then you're going to move on to the roll dice, which is the second part of the strategy phase. So we roll the dice here. And then you're going to apply dice. That's where you take these dice and you put them on the card that you're wanting to apply them to. And so this here is 1 damage each from these hits. And then I have 2 misses here. And so this particular enemy needs 5 hits total. At this point, my strategy phase is over. If I've defeated an enemy, I would turn the enemy sideways like so to indicate that it's been defeated. Also, the ongoing abilities will not be in effect anymore from a defeated enemy, so keep that in mind. But what you're able to do is actually, you're able to do the strategy phase again based on the stat shown here. So I have 2 on my strategy stat. That means I have 2 strategy phases per engagement. So I can go ahead and follow the steps again. I can commit dice, roll dice, and apply dice. So if I wanted to right now, I could add 1 more die to this roll and then re-roll all. Even if there are hits here, you re-roll all dice that are unapplied. Applied means dice that are been put on cards and dealing damage and that sort of thing. So I could re-roll these 3 dice and see what I get. Well, there you go. I got a critical hit and another hit, and so I can place them on here. You can actually commit as many dice to a card even after it's been defeated, so keep that in mind. That might apply to certain card effects. And now I've done 6 damage total to this card. Once you're done with your strategy phase, and you've done all your strategy phases you want to do, according to your strategy stat, then you go on to the resolve phase. And the resolve phase has 6 different things going on. First, you suffer damage. Any enemies you don't kill will damage you based upon their damage stat. So if I hadn't killed this enemy, I would take 3 damage right now, and I would just reduce my die down by 3. Of course, if that reduces it below 1, I would die immediately and the game would be over. Next, you have after effects. And again, after effects are these double arrows here. And so this one here says, if you suffered any damage in this engagement, you add 1 extra enemy to the next engagement. So that's not cool. You don't want to do that. Now, after effects always apply, even on defeated enemies. You can't avoid those after effects unless you have some other card that allows you to do so. Then after that's done, you exhaust all committed dice. So even dice that weren't applied, as in put on a card, they were committed because they ended up being rolled. You take all these dice and you exhaust them. And so I'm going to put my exhausted dice up here. Then you go on to recover dice, and you recover as many dice as you have your arrow here. So your arrow die here, this one shows 1, so I can recover 1 die. So I'll recover the red one, of course, because it's the most powerful one. Sometimes you'll have card effects in your loot that'll allow you to recover more dice. And then after that, you gain item rewards. So shown at the bottom here are various rewards that you can gain. This little arrow here says it's a one-time use ability. So you can use it later on. The only time you can't use it is during the roll dice step. But this allows you to do this ability once by discarding this card. So I could banish 2 dice from my dice pool to immediately defeat 1 level 1 enemy. Again, the level is shown here at the top. And so when you gain an item, you don't have to gain an item, by the way, but you can only hold as many items as your strategy values. So I can only hold 2. So when you get an item, you put it in your inventory and it'll be off to the side here. If you already have 2 items in your inventory and you only have a strategy stat of 2, you can't take a new item, but you can discard 1 item to make space, so keep that in mind. And then later on, like I said, with the single-use item, I can use it at any time. Some of the loot bonuses are instant. So when you defeat an enemy, you automatically get this right away. This is before the recover loot step. So at the moment that you do enough damage to defeat the enemy, this ability triggers right away. And so this one here says that you'll gain 2 health and you can discard a non-mandatory enemy from the top of any stack. I'll explain mandatory enemies in just a moment. And then there are ongoing abilities like this one here, which is the little infinity symbol. That's an ongoing ability. So while this is in your inventory, after each roll dice step, in which you roll at least 3 different die colors, you may change one miss to a hit. So those are kind of nice beneficial abilities that you can use throughout the game. And then after you've gained your item rewards, then you'll discard any remaining enemies. They're called the active cards. Any cards in the active area here, you'll discard those into a discard pile here. And then that's it. You repeat this until you can trigger the end game. And I'll talk about the end game for Solar Sentinels when we talk about the Solar Sentinels specific rules. And so one thing you need to know about general rules. If the deck-specific rules contradict the general rules, you go with the deck-specific rules. And card text takes precedence over the rules in either rulebook, and effect text takes precedence over reward or ability text. And then the word may indicates that the text is optional. If 2 things would ever be resolved at the same time, you choose the order in which they would be resolved. Alright, so let's talk about the Solar Sentinels specific rules. And so in Solar Sentinels, you have these mandatory enemies, these orange ones here, that if they are on top of one of the stacks, you must choose that enemy to activate during the next activation. So if it was my new round here and this was the setup, then I would have to choose this enemy, which would get activated, and then unfortunately, on this one here, it's activating another additional enemy, so I'd have to choose one here and activate it as well. So that's one of the unique rules for Solar Sentinels. Also in Solar Sentinels, during the cleanup step, when you discard all active cards, you discard 1 top card of one of the stacks. So you get to choose between these 3 stacks here, but you cannot discard a mandatory card. Now, just note, there's sometimes you're able to discard cards from the top of the stack due to card effects, and you are able to discard mandatory cards that way if it doesn't say otherwise. And once again, in Solar Sentinels, you have the levels on the cards here. Those levels have interactions during the gameplay. Sometimes something will tell you you can defeat a level 1 or 2 enemy or that sort of thing, just like this card that I had shown you earlier. If at any time one of these stacks gets emptied, you ignored the empty stacks for any game effects, so keep that in mind. And then we have these missions here. So these missions provide alternate challenges to the gameplay, give you some things to work towards. Now, the missions have to be completed left to right. So you have to start with this one. Once you've completed that one, you can flip it over, then you can move on to the next one, and so on. Now, the way missions work is you have to do what it says while it's active. It's active if it's the leftmost face-up card. Now, this one says here, in a single commit dice step, commit all dice that are in your dice pool of 3 different dice colors. And so if you do this, then you'll complete this. Now, one thing to note, if this wasn't the active one, and you had done it in a previous round, if you had completed whatever was on that, it doesn't count for it. That even goes for ones where you had to keep track of enemies defeated. You only keep track of that mission's goals when that mission is active. Now, if you cannot complete these missions, then they're going to add an extra enemy to the end game boss. So you definitely want to try and complete the missions if you're using the missions. But again, for this tutorial solo playthrough, I will not be using the missions. I will be playing the game as if it was played for the first time. All right, so the last thing we need to talk about is the end game. So at some point, you may have emptied a complete stack of cards. Any round after that, you can decide to go straight into the end game. And so what that means is if you have any boss that's currently face up, you'll activate that boss and you'll start fighting it right away. If you don't have any face up bosses, then you'll choose one of these randomly. So you just shuffle up and draw one. Now, when you're fighting a boss, it's going to bring along some enemies. And so this one here brings along 3 enemies. And of course, activating those enemies could trigger more of these effects. You have to watch out for that. And so when you activate the boss and you start activating enemies, of course you have to choose mandatory ones over non-mandatory enemies, but then you'll just get all set up. And so this one has an ongoing effect. While any other enemies are undefeated, hits deal 0 damage to the Swarm Lord. So you have to defeat the other enemies before you can defeat this one. This one has 9 health and 3 damage. Now, one thing to note when fighting bosses is you're going to be fighting it wave after wave, and there is no discard step. So you ignore that completely. So any enemies that remain in play after you've done your strategy step, they will remain in play for the rest of the game. So keep that in mind. So any enemies that remain undefeated after your strategy step, they will remain in play and you'll have to encounter them again in the next round. And so there's other enemies here as well. This one here says a max 1 die of each color can be applied in each applied die step. At the end of each applied die step, -1 health for each committed miss. This next one here says hits can only be applied to enemies if all unapplied dice are hits. Dice applied to the Alpha Beast are not removed in the exhaust dice step. And this last one here says the damage of all other enemies is 1. The Hive Monarch can have no more than 3 damage applied to it per round. Dice applied to the Hive Monarch are not removed in the exhaust dice step. Now, the other way you encounter a boss or go into the end game is if you exhaust all 3 stacks. And so at that point, it would immediately go into the end game. You'll shuffle all of these cards back into one stack so that you'll have enemies to draw during that step. All right, and so one last thing I want to mention is the hero. The hero has abilities here, and it says it's got the Matter Reshaper. Each time you use a single-use item, you may either gain 2 health or recover 2 dice. So that is really useful. All right, and so we're ready to begin the game. And so the first thing you do is you choose to activate an enemy. And so I think I will activate this enemy here. Now this one has an ongoing effect, skip the recover dice step. Since I'm going to kill him, that's not going to matter. And on top of that, I'll gain 2 health when I kill him. And I'll discard a non-mandatory enemy from the top of any stack. So that'll be useful. Now he does have 4 health, so I have to do a decent amount of damage to him. And I think what I'll do is I will roll, let's see, we'll roll a red and 2 purples and a blue. Let's see how we go. And check that out. So I got a critical hit here, and I have 2 damage here. So we apply it to him. He's now dead. That ongoing effect is now null, and I immediately gain 2 health. So we're moving up on to 6. Now you can't gain any more than 6 of a stat, so keep that in mind. And then I get to discard a non-mandatory enemy from the top of any stack. And I think I'll discard this one here. So we'll put our discard pile up here. All right, so now we go into suffer damage. Well, there's no living enemies left, so I don't suffer damage. After effects, there's no double arrow after effects symbol here, so nothing happens there. We exhaust the dice, so these get moved to the exhaustion area. And then I recover dice. I can recover as many as my arrow shows here. So I'll recover 1. And then we gain item rewards. I don't have any item rewards. Discard all cards in the active area. All right, so that one gets discarded. And again, a rule for Solar Sentinels is you discard one of the top cards of the stack here. And let's see, I will discard this one here. Yeah, let's do that. I did forget to exhaust this die here as well. All right, so now we're ready to engage again. And it looks like I'm going to attack this one because it's a mandatory. Now this one here has the after effect of count the total number of applied dice, discard that many cards from the tops of any stacks, 1 at a time. So that can help advance the end game. Now he has 4 health, he does 2 damage, and his bonus when I kill him it gives me 2 health, but I'm at max health, so that's not going to matter. So what I think I will do is I will use a purple, 2 blues, and a red. Rolling those, see what I get. Wow, nice rolls there. So he's dead. I did a total of 5 damage there. I don't gain any health from that bonus, but we move on to the after effects. So the after effects, once again, count the number of total applied dice. So again, applied, well actually, see, I didn't have to apply that one. So I could just apply these 3 and just discard 3 cards if I wanted to do that. And that's what I'll do. So I think I'll discard the Swarm Apostle because it heals me when I kill it and I'm at full health, so I don't need that. I'll discard the Mess of Maggots, that's 2. And might as well discard this one because look at this one activates 2 additional enemies and I don't want to deal with that. Of course, that revealed a mandatory enemy that I'm going to have to deal with the next turn. So now that after effects are done, I exhaust all my dice here, recover 1 from my recovery stat, and we discard or clean up. So discarding this card and 1 other card. Now, I can't discard this mandatory card during this particular step because it has to be a non-mandatory card. So I guess I'll discard this one. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'll discard this one. All right, so now we're moving on. I have to encounter this mandatory enemy. Now, this mandatory enemy, the Total War Spore, has an after effect of roll the 3 weakest dice committed to this engagement. If you roll at least 2 hits, banish a purple die. Well, we definitely don't want to do that. So we want to roll weak dice that won't have hits, and hopefully not. So we'll roll our 3 yellows for sure. We'll roll these 3 as well. We need to do 5 damage or I'm going to take 3 hits. Of course, I could just let him hit me. I'm at max health. Maybe I should do that instead. Sorry, a little take back there, but maybe I should just take the damage. So I'll take 3 damage, committing no dice. We just go straight on to suffer damage. So I suffer damage. The after effect doesn't apply because no dice were rolled. And so yeah, I discard 1 more card here. And I think I'll discard this one here, and we're ready to go on to the next turn. Because I want to attack this guy. This guy here, it says if you suffered any damage in this engagement, suffer damage step, add 1 enemy to the next engagement. Well, I don't plan on dying on this one here. Now, he does take 8 hits, so I'm going to have to roll a lot of dice. But here's the thing. The item that he gives me, the single-use item, is recover all my dice. So, you know what? Let's just roll everything. Here we go. Wow. I only got 4 hits out of that. That's not good. That's really bad. All right. If I don't win this fight, this is going to be awful. Now, I get a second strategy step. So I can recommit dice. I don't have any more to commit, but then I get to roll all unapplied dice. So we'll roll these here. And oh yeah, more than enough hits. I've got 9 total damage here against his 8, so now he's dead. So I don't suffer any damage during this engagement, so that's good. And I gain this item. So we're going to put this item off to the side. All the dice get exhausted. I recover the 1 red die. I only have 1 die in my dice pool, and so that's not good. But we can actually use this item, but we'll use it in just a moment. We have to discard 1 card from the top of the stacks here, and I think I'll discard this one because I don't want to encounter 2 additional enemies. All right, so now we're going to use this item. So I can recover all my dice. So all these get recovered. Now, if you remember, my ability says anytime I use a single-use item, I can recover health or 2 dice. I can recover 2 health. Let's do that. So I'm back up to 5, and I have all my dice. All right, so we're ready to go on to the next turn, and I think I'm going to attack this one here. This one is the Spiderpus, and it says, when defeated, if not the first enemy defeated this engagement, discard the top 2 cards from the leftmost stack. And then this next one here, I have to add 1 in because it has an additional enemy icon there. This is the Crater Fly. And it has an ongoing ability that hits on yellow and green deal 2 damage instead of 1. And so that's really nice. So I'm going to use most of my yellows and greens here. Let's see, we got 3 and 3. Might as well use them all, just to be on the safe side here. I'm going to be able to recover dice, so that's going to be nice. Let's see what we get. And now I want to defeat him first and then him second so I don't trigger that ability unless I want to get rid of those cards. But I'll make that decision in just a moment. Let's see what we got. Wow, not a good roll. Now, again, these do 2 damage each. So that's 4 damage to this one here. So we'll move on and roll again. See what we get. All right, got just enough damage. We got 6 here and 2 more here, so both are defeated. This one's defeated. I recovered 2 dice. Unfortunately, I don't have any dice in my exhausted area. But now we activate this ability here. When defeated, if not the first enemy defeated this engagement, which it wasn't, I defeated this one first. Discard the top 2 cards from the leftmost stack. All right, so now we move on to exhausting dice. All 8 of these are exhausted now. And I get to recover 1 die, so might as well just recover a green one since it's more powerful than the yellow one. And then we gain item rewards. So this one has a space sushi. I can use it to roll all exhausted dice and recover any roll that hits. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to save that for now. And then this card gets discarded during cleanup, and I get to discard one of these cards here. And I think I'll discard this one. All right, so I'm going to attack the Solar Sentinel. This one has an ongoing ability. For each die you commit, you must commit all dice from your dice pool of the same color. It also adds an additional enemy, so I will take this enemy on the left here. This one has an ongoing ability that says all critical hits deal 0 damage, so that's unfortunate. And so again, if I commit dice, I must commit all dice from my dice pool of the same color. So I think I will commit the purple ones here, all 4 of them. See, I'm gonna take the damage from this guy. I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm going to take the damage because this guy's going to give me an ability to heal. So I'm going to roll all 4 dice, and I got 3 hits. So I just need to hit one more time. This is not good though. So now we're going back to the strategy step one more because I have a strategy stat. So I can re-roll this die, or I can also commit more. I'm going to commit the green, and that's the only one green that I have in my pool here. So I'll commit that. Roll these 2, and we're hoping for 1 more damage. There we go, got it. So I got the 4 damage here, killing this enemy, and then this one is now going to deal damage to me. So I'm going to take 2 damage, bringing me down to 3. There are no after effects. I'm going to exhaust all these dice, and then I gain this item here, which is a health stim. So to let me recover 3 health. I forgot to recover a die, so we'll recover a purple there. And then we'll discard this card and 1 card from the top of the decks. All right, so at this point, I think I'm going to use this ability here, the Space Sushi. Roll all exhausted dice and recover any roll that hits. So we'll re-roll all these here. And so we got a few hits. It's not too bad. I got 5 dice back, so that was pretty good. The rest of these are going to go back to the exhaust pool. Now, on top of that, I can recover 2 health or recover 2 dice. I think I will recover 2 dice. And then I can use this other card here to recover 3 health, and that'll trigger my hero ability again, allowing me to recover 2 more dice. So let's do that, because now that'll put me at max health, which is really good. And then I'll recover those 2 purples. Now I have most of my dice back, so that's really good. All right, so I'm going to attack this one here, the rack squid. This one has an after effect that allows me to flip the top card of the boss deck. But I have to defeat this guy. He's going to deal 4 damage if I don't. I mean, I guess I could let myself take the damage, but I kind of want his ability. So he has Poison Ink. It's a single use, defeat, and gain the reward from the top card of the leftmost stack. I think that would be really useful. So let's commit 7 dice. It's a lot of dice, but I think it's worth trying to kill this guy. Let's see what we get. Wow, look at all those critical hits. 2 critical hits, 4 more damage, so that's 8 damage total. This guy is dead. All right, so the after effects here, we're going to flip over the top card of the boss stack. And so we get the Mother Spore. And so if the endgame triggers now, this will be the boss that I'm going to encounter. So I don't know if I want to encounter that one. I may try and discard that later. Then we exhaust all these dice here. I will recover the red one as part of the recover step. And then I will add this to my loot, and we're ready for the next turn. Now I could use the ability here to defeat this enemy here and gain its ability. And I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to discard this to use the ability, defeat and gain the reward from the top card of the leftmost stack. See, this reward here says I can use it to exhaust 1 die from my dice pool to set the health of a level 1 or 2 enemy to 2. That's really nice. On top of that, since I just used a single-use item, I can recover 2 dice. I will recover 2 purples. All right, so now I'm going to attack this guy here, the Flesh Locust. It's going to add an additional enemy. It has the after effect, if this enemy is not defeated, banish the strongest die in my dice pool. So I definitely want to defeat him. And then this one here will be my second activation. And this one says, if this enemy is not defeated, place it on top of any stack. Its reward is now a single use. During activation, activate 1 fewer enemy than required, minimum of 1. Now, I need a total of 8 damage, but I think I will use this here, exhaust 1 die from my dice pool, so I'll exhaust a yellow, to set the health of one of my level 1 or 2 enemies to 2. So I'll set this one to 2. So I really only need to do 4 damage. So in using this item then, I get to recover 2 dice according to my hero ability. Now, one thing to note about this guy here, the Marrow Locust, See, right now his item is a single-use item that says none, but it gets modified if you complete its little objective here, sustaining its damage and then defeating it later. But if I defeat it now, I get a single-use item that does nothing. However, with my hero ability, I can use that single-use item, even though it does nothing, to trigger my hero ability. So that's really nice. So I think I'm just going to kill off both of these guys right now. And so I'm going to use 3 purples and 1 red, trying to knock them out. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Definitely took both of them out. That's awesome. Now this one, when it's defeated, increases my strategy stat by 1. So that's really nice. That'll be useful later during the boss fight. So now I'm at a strategy of 3. That also means I can hold more items as well. So that might be very good for me. Now these get exhausted here. I get to recover 1. And then I get to add this item to my inventory. And this guy gets discarded. And then we discard 1 from the top of the decks here. And I think I'll discard this one here. All right, so we're ready to move on, and we're going to attack this Lost Sentinel here. It says I can't commit any green dice, and that's okay. I'll just use purple, red, and blue. It has an instant effect of giving me +1 recovery and discarding a non-mandatory enemy from the top of any stack. So that's really good. I need that extra recovery. So let's see, we got 2 hits now. I need 1 more hit. I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to add 1 more blue to this roll, try and kill this guy. And there we go. We got our 3rd hit. I instantly gain +1 to my recovery. Now I have 2 recovery. And we're ready to move on to after effects. There are no after effects. We exhaust all these dice here. Now I recover 2 dice, so a red and a purple. And there's no item to gain. This guy gets discarded and can... Oh, and I forgot the other bonus of discarding another card. So I will discard this one here, and then the end of round discarding of a card, and I think I'll discard this one here. All right, so now we have a mandatory enemy. This is the Plasma Blight. So this enemy has an ongoing effect of this enemy cannot be defeated unless it has hits from at least 4 different die colors applied to it. Oh, that's going to be difficult. Well, I mean, I have some here. So, but the first thing I want to do actually is activate the Marrow Locust so I can recover 2 dice. So we're going to recover a purple and a blue. Now I need to do 6 damage to this enemy. So, and it has to be 4 different colors. So I got the red, purple, and blue there. And might as well go with 1 green and another purple and another green. So we need to do 6 damage. Let's see if we can pull this off. I do have 3 strategy, so that'll be good. But check that out. All right. We got just enough in that 1 roll. 4 damage here, and 2 from the critical hit, and then 4 different colors as required. So now it's dead. And now I gain this ongoing ability after, well, let's exhaust the dice and recover some dice first. But now I have this ability. Once per round, I may exhaust 1 die from my dice pool to change a hit to a critical hit. That's kind of nice. All right, so we're moving on to the next turn. And now I'm low on dice. This is not good. I definitely want to defeat this guy because this guy will let me recover dice. But unfortunately, I have to use the mandatory enemy first, and then I have to add 1 more enemy. But this mandatory enemy makes it so I cannot apply critical hits to an enemy. So that's really unfortunate. But we'll add this enemy here. This one, I'm not going to be able to defeat both these enemies. So I'm just going to end up taking 3 damage, hopefully defeating this one with 5 damage. Let's see how this works. Now, if I don't, I'm going to be losing a lot of health. I have to roll 5 dice. It's all I have left. Oh, this is going to be tough. And we got 3 hits here. That's good. Now I need 2 more hits. I can re-roll 2 more times. Let's see if we get it. Oh my goodness. Well, I got the 1 hit, but I can't apply critical hit due to this ongoing effect. So I need to roll this and get 1 more hit. This is going to be epic if I do, because there's only 2 hits on it. Oh my goodness, look at that. It's on the side of the cards. We'll call it. It's another hit. All right, so he's defeated. But unfortunately, we're moving on to the received damage or suffered damage. I'm going to suffer 3 damage from that, bringing me back down to 3. We exhaust all these dice, but I get to recover 2. I add this item to my inventory, and then this guy gets discarded here, and I get to discard 1 other card here. And I think I'll discard this one here. All right, so now I have this ability here, this single-use item, Relic of Scab. I can get 5 health and or discard a non-mandatory enemy from the top of any stack. So that's really nice. And I'm tempted to use it, because I need to recover some dice. But I think I will wait. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attack this guy, activate this guy, and not roll any dice and just take the hits. That's going to bring me down to 1. He'll end up getting discarded, and I can discard one other card. And I think I'll discard this one. I forgot I get to recover though. Recover 2 dice. So now I'm back up to 4 dice. But now I want to use this card, which lets me recover up to 5 health now. And now I'm all the way up to 6 again. And then activating my hero ability, I get to recover 2 more dice. And I will recover these 2 here. This is getting really close. We're nearing the end of the game because the decks are really low. I don't have that many dice, and I really need dice to fight the boss. So let's see. We're going to attack this enemy here. See this Gutterfly? It says when this enemy is defeated, I may immediately defeat one or 2 enemy. So I could defeat this one here, and that would give me an added recovery, and I think that would be helpful. So I need to do 6 damage here. That's going to be hard, but I guess I'll roll all 6 dice and try and make it happen. There we go. Oh, I got 5 damage. 5 damage. All right, I can re-roll this one twice. It should hit. It's only got 1 miss on it, right? There we go. Critical hit. All right, so he's dead. So when I defeat him, I can defeat another. So I defeat this one here. This one will give me a bonus here of +1 to my recovery stat. Then we exhaust these. And now I get to recover 3 dice instead of 2, so that's nice. And then I gain this guy to my inventory. On top of that, it has the ability to recover 3 dice on it. So I'm going to use it right now. That'll let me recover 2 purples and a blue. But then it triggers my hero ability, recovering 2 more dice. All right, the end of turn, I have to discard one of these cards here. And I think I'll discard this one. All right, so I think I'm going to attack this enemy. I like this one here, the Crater Stalker. It says in the roll step, -1 health for each die color that rolls 2 or more hits. I can sustain that, but it has this ongoing effect. After each recovered dice step, you may recover 1 green and 1 yellow. So that's going to be really useful. Now, I do have to do 5 damage. That unfortunately means I'm going to likely lose 2 health from this. We'll see how it goes. Actually not. Check this out. Oh no, this one, actually yeah, so this one says in the roll dice step. So now that I've rolled dice, this is before it applies, -1 health for each color that rolls 2 or more hits. Well, this one rolled 2 hits, this one rolled 2 hits. So I'm gonna lose 2 health from that. That's unfortunate, but I've defeated this enemy. More than enough damage here to defeat it. And so I will exhaust my dice, recover 3, and then I will now have this ongoing ability of recovering yellow and green dice. And we also had to discard 1 card from the top of the stack, and I think I'll discard this one here. And now we have 2 mandatory enemies to choose from. See, I have to choose one of these. Now, if I choose this one here, it will add this one. But I think that's okay. I'll encounter both. Now this is going to be tricky. We have 2 ongoing effects. First of all, a max of 3 dice can be committed in this engagement. So it doesn't matter how many strategy phases you do, it's the whole engagement, so 3 dice. This one here says maximum of 2 dice can be applied to this enemy. So I have to be really careful with this. I have to apply 2 critical hits here and 1 hit here. Let's see if we can pull this off. So we are going to use, of course, these 3 dice here, being the strongest dice that I have. Now, I do have this ability here that says once per round I can exhaust 1 die from my dice pool to change a hit to a critical hit. So that's going to help. But I still have to roll at least 1 critical hit. Let's see what we can do. So unfortunately, I only got hits here. Now, I can hit this one here, but I definitely need to roll that critical hit. Now, at this point, his ongoing effect no longer applies, so I could commit to more dice. But I don't need to necessarily unless I really want to. You know, for the added, maybe I will, for the added chance of getting a critical hit. I can re-roll 2 more times here, so let's see what I can get. Nice, I got 1 critical hit and then 2 hits. Now I can exhaust 1 die from my dice pool using this ability to turn this one into a critical hit. And so now both of these enemies are defeated. That's perfect. Now we go on to the exhaust dice step. I'll exhaust these, recover these 3 here, and then we receive loot. Now I only have 3 strategies, so I can only hold 3 items total. And so I think I will gain this one, because this one is a single-use item that makes my hits on the red die deal 3 damage in an engagement. And then this one I just don't need, so it'll get discarded. And of course I get to discard the top card of one of the decks here, and I think I'll discard this one. I did forget though, with my ability here, I get to recover 1 yellow and green die. So that's really nice. All right, so now we're going into the activating enemies, and I have to activate this one here, which means I have to activate one other, and I'm not sure which one I want to do. This one has the ongoing ability of, in each roll dice step, count the number of rolled misses, take the same number of rolled hits, and re-roll them. So that's really unfortunate. And then we have this one here. A max of 5 dice can be committed in this engagement. All right. But I can't help but wonder if I should just take it, like take the damage. Well, I'm only at 4 health, so maybe I should try and fight them, at least one of them. All right, so with a max of 5 dice that can be committed, I'm going to commit 1 yellow and 1 green because I'll recover those, and purple, 2 purples and a red because I can recover those from there. So I can recover all these dice that I use. So let's do that. All right, so again, with this ability here, it says in each roll step, count the number of rolled misses. I have 2 rolled misses. Take the same number of rolled hits, which is these 2 here, and re-roll them. Okay, well, I get 2 more hits. So now I'm going to use these to defeat him. Now his ongoing ability no longer applies, so I don't have to worry about re-rolling hits. But now I need to attack him. I need a critical hit. I have 2 more rolls, so let's see. Nope, no rolls there. Nope, no rolls there. So he's going to end up damaging me. So I'm going to take 1 damage, bringing me down to 3. That's unfortunate, but that's okay. We exhaust all these dice, but I'll end up gaining them all back. Again, 3 from my recovery stat for those 3, and then yellow and green here. I did forget that this here lets me recover 3 dice when I defeat this enemy. So I could have recovered these 3 here. All right, so both of these are going to get discarded then. And at this point, we have 2 empty stacks. So I can either engage this enemy, or I can move on to the boss fight. Now, please note, I did make the error of not discarding this enemy at the end of the round, which would have resulted in me shuffling the deck and selecting a different enemy to fight along with the boss. And so here's an interesting thing I want to talk about, a little edge case here. This enemy here, when I engage him, the single damage on the red and purple deals 0 damage. So let's say I decided to engage him and I wanted to use my single use item here that makes hits on the red die deal 3 damage. This would not take precedence over this. This effect takes precedence over reward effects. So keep that in mind. So I don't really want to engage him right now. I mean, I could. He's only got 4 health. I could. But I think we're just going to go on to fighting the boss. And so we're going to activate the boss. So we bring the boss into play. Now the boss is going to add 1 enemy to that activation, which will be this enemy here. And so now we're going to commit dice for this boss. Now it says here, a max of 1 die of each color can be applied in each applied dice step. At the end of each applied dice step, -1 for each committed miss. And so I'm going to roll 1 of each die, but before I do that, I am going to use this ability. So the red hits deal 3 damage this engagement. Right now, they are 0 damage, but the moment I defeat this enemy, they become 3 damage. So I have to keep that in mind. But what this allows me to do is it allows me to heal 2 health because I'm just too low on health. And then we're going to roll the dice, and hopefully I can defeat this one. We'll see. All right, so I have 1 miss. So again, at the end of each apply dice step, I get -1 health for each committed miss. Now here's an interesting thing, is I can actually exhaust one of my dice, like this green one here, or maybe actually I should exhaust this blue one here. And then what I can do is change this to a critical hit. And so when I do that, this no longer applies anyways because this effect only affects the single damage icon, not the critical hits. So I'm going to place this on here. And so now he only needs to take 1 more damage. And so I'll place 1 here, and so he's dead. So the effects no longer apply. And then that means I can add these 2 here, dealing 2 damage. But I don't think I'm going to apply any damage to the boss this turn. So we're just going to kill off this enemy here. But after the apply step here, I have to lose 1 health due to the boss's ability. But then I will exhaust all these dice here, recover the dice that I want, which I think will be these 3. And then I get a yellow and a green from my ability here. And then I add this here. And so now it says I may exhaust 1 die from my dice pool to make a hit on a yellow, deal 2 damage this engagement. So that's going to be really useful. So now we move on to the next round here. and hopefully I can roll well and true. We'll see how this goes. Rolling all 5 colors. I don't want to die, but let's see what happens. All right, so I didn't get a hit on the yellow, so that's going to deal 1 damage to me, unfortunately. But the red die still does 3 damage because it's for the whole engagement. And then let's see, we got 2 more damage here. Wow. So we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage. That's pretty awesome. All right, so now I have to be really careful. See, I have 2 more strategy phases that I can do and re-roll dice. But the problem is I only have 3 health left. So I have to be careful on those misses. So I think I'm going to re-roll these 2 here because I can afford 2 misses. Let's hope I don't get 2 misses. I got 1, but check that out. I got a critical hit. Now I did take the 1 damage, but look, I've got a total of 9 damage. 2, 3, 4, 6, 9. Boom. The boss is dead and I have won the game. And so there you have it. That was the tutorial and solo playthrough of 20 Strong by Josh Carlson, Salem Scott, and Shannon Wedge, and published by Chip Theory Games. Now my pledge also came with the Hoplomachus Victorium expansion as well as the 2 Mini Bones expansion. I haven't played those yet. But stay tuned, I will have first impressions for this particular edition, the Solar Sentinels edition. And let me know in the comments below what you thought of this game or point out any rules errors I may have made. Please also like and subscribe to this channel if you like the content you see here. And I thank you very much for joining me on Tabletop for One. Have a great night.